The wind at the Civil Affairs Bureau's entrance made the pregnancy test report in my hand flutter noisily, its glaring words declaring the absurdity of my 5-year youth. My boyfriend's voice came through the phone, cold and disdainful. "Don't overthink it, I drank too much at the celebration party. Maya is pregnant, you can raise the child after it's born." My tears didn't fall, but I curled my lips and sent a message to the man who had pursued me for 8 years. "Come to the Civil Affairs Bureau to register our marriage." In that moment, I realized the real choice wasn't forgiveness. It was marrying a man 100 times more powerful than him. Standing in front of the Civil Affairs Bureau, I carefully checked my handbag, household register, ID card, everything was ready. Today was the day Ethan and I had agreed to register our marriage. I had carefully chosen a light pink suit, even matching my lipstick to the same shade. To make the day's photos look more ceremonial, my phone vibrated. I pulled it out to see a text from an unknown number. The moment I opened it, the air seemed to freeze. On the screen was a photo of a pregnancy test report dated 3 days ago, with the name Maya clearly written in the pregnant woman column. Below the photo was a line of text: "Congratulations, soon-to-be stepmom. CEO Shin asked me to tell you in advance." My fingers went numb as I stared at those words. Maya, Ethan's specially appointed assistant, the woman who was always so deferential in front of me. Suddenly, my phone rang, Ethan's name flashing on the screen. "Sophia, are you at the Civil Affairs Bureau?" His voice on the other end sounded weary, yet with a strange detachment. As I struggled to control the tremor in my voice, Ethan's words came through the receiver, icy as a winter wind. "Sophia, don't overthink it, I drank too much at the celebration party, and Maya is pregnant. I have to take care of her." I clenched my teeth, saying nothing. After a pause, he added, "After she gives birth, you can raise the child. It'll only recognize you as its mother. We can talk about marriage later." Staring at the glaring photo of the pregnancy test on my phone screen, listening to Ethan's flippant words shifting responsibility, my eyes instantly welled up. Not from grief, but from the absurdity of this reality, so extreme it made me want to cry on a physiological level. 5 years, just fed to the dogs. "Are you listening to me?" Ethan's voice grew impatient. "Yeah, I heard you." My voice sounded distant, eerily calm. "How far along is the baby?" "A little over a month." "Where is she now?" "At my place." Ethan hesitated. "She's emotionally unstable. I have to stay with her." Those words pierced my heart like needles. Just a few months ago, I handed him the design project for the largest commercial complex under the Sue Group, catapulting him to fame as the hottest designer in the industry. He said, "Once the project is done, we'll get married." Now the project is finished, and he's come home with a pregnant woman. "Sophia, don't just stay silent like this. Say something." Ethan's tone grew agitated. I took a deep breath, my fingers unconsciously hitting delete. The anonymous text and photo vanished from the screen. "There's nothing to say, Ethan." I enunciated each word. "We're done. Don't make a scene, Sophia." "It's been 5 years." Ethan's voice softened. "Give me some time to handle this. Wait for the child." I hung up the phone directly. The sunlight at the entrance of the Civil Affairs Bureau was so blinding that I could barely keep my eyes open. I looked up at the blue sky, tears welling up in my eyes but stubbornly refusing to fall. 5 years of emotions seemed to recede from my body like a tide at this moment, leaving only clarity and coldness behind. "Are you coming? It's almost closing time." I took a deep breath, trying to calm the surging emotions, and dialed the number I knew by heart. My voice was so calm it betrayed no ripple of emotion. On the other end of the line, Henry's voice carried a suppressed, gritted restraint. "Sophia, I chased you for 8 years and got nothing. And now you're saying we should just get married." I glanced at the clock on the wall, my voice growing even colder. "Yes or no?" He fell silent for a moment. Then the tension in his voice instantly transformed into barely contained elation, even a hint of flustered excitement. "I brought the documents, rescheduled the meeting, and our parents already know, no point in backing out now." 30 minutes. I hung up after saying this, looking at my fingers, which were trembling slightly. I leaned against the stone pillar outside the Civil Affairs Bureau, waiting for a man I had repeatedly rejected. Exactly 30 minutes later, A black Maybach screeched to a halt in front of the bureau, and Henry practically jumped out of the car. He was wearing a suit clearly meant for an important occasion, his tie loosened and hair slightly disheveled, obviously in a hurry. He stood panting in front of me as if he had run all the way here. I handed him the prepared household register, and Henry took it, gripping my hand so tightly it almost hurt. "Sophia, you're not joking, are you? The bureau closes at 5:30. I withdrew my wrist and looked up to meet his gaze directly. 20 minutes left. He froze for a moment, then smiled, his eyes glinting with a light I'd never seen before. "Let's go get married." 17 minutes later, as I stepped out of the Civil Affairs Bureau holding that small, gold-embossed booklet, I felt a strange sense of relief, or perhaps, Henry, gripping my hand tightly as if afraid I might vanish. "Home now?" he asked, his voice brimming with barely contained excitement. "Which home?" I asked. "Our home," he smiled, leaning down to whisper in my ear. 8 years, Sophia. I've waited 8 years for this day." My phone vibrated again. I glanced at it. Ethan, still taking his calls. A sharp glint flashed in Henry's eyes. I shook my head and turned off my phone. The Maybach pulled away from the Civil Affairs Bureau. The scenery outside the window receding rapidly. Memories of the past 5 years seemed to fast forward in my mind, fading just as quickly. "Why did you suddenly say yes to me?" Henry asked, turning to me at a red light. I glanced at the marriage certificate in my hand and curled my lips. "Because it's time to wake up." The Maybach stopped in front of the apartment building I once knew so well, the place where I had lived with Ethan for 5 years, now transformed into his and Maya's love nest. "Do you want me to come up with you?" Henry turned to look at me, concern in his eyes. I shook my head. "No, I'll be quick. Call me if anything happens." He hesitated. "How long will you be?" "I'll wait here." I smiled faintly. "Half an hour is more than enough." As the elevator ascended, I looked down at the brand new marriage certificate in my hand, my heart a whirlwind of emotions. 5 hours ago, I had been preparing to register my marriage with Ethan. And now I was already Henry's wife. Fate could be so cruel. The elevator doors opened. Just as I reached the apartment door, I heard sounds coming from inside. "Ooh, ooh," the exaggerated retching of someone feigning illness. "Are you okay? Let me get you some warm water." The tender voice was almost unrecognizable. Standing outside, my fingers trembled slightly as I entered the passcode. With a ding, the door unlocked. In the living room, Maya reclined on the sofa, one hand gently stroking her flat stomach, the other weakly resting on her forehead. When she saw me enter, a flicker of surprise crossed her eyes before she resumed her fragile, pitiful act. "Ms. Sue," she called softly, her voice as thin as a mosquito's hum. Ethan emerged from the kitchen, a glass of water in hand. He froze when he saw me, then frowned. "What are you doing here?" "To take your things," I answered coldly and walked straight toward the bedroom. "Wait," Ethan blocked my way, his tone icy. "Maya isn't feeling well right now. Hurry up and don't disturb her rest." I looked at this unfamiliar man before me and felt a cold laugh rise in my heart. In 5 years, I'd never seen him act so cautiously toward anyone, let alone fetch water or medicine for them. "Don't worry. I won't intrude on your little world." I stepped around him and walked into what used to be our bedroom. The room had changed. There was a girlish pink pillow on the bed now, and Maya's cosmetics were on the dresser. I didn't linger, just pulled out my suitcase and started packing my things. "Sophia," Ethan stood at the door, arms crossed. "I need your help with a project. The one you were in charge of before." I didn't look up. "The final proposal for that suburban commercial complex. The client wants to see it tomorrow." I paused what I was doing. "You're the project lead. The client deals directly with you. Why should I handle it? Maya needs me with her." Ethan said it like it was the most natural thing in the world. "Just tidy up the final proposal and send it to me." I raised my head to look at him and saw not a trace of guilt or unease in his eyes, just a condescending air of command. This was the project I'd fought to secure, only to let Ethan take the lead in the design to boost his career, and now, he couldn't even be bothered to do this much. "Fine," I nodded, catching the flicker of triumph in Ethan's eyes. "Are the documents in the study?" "Yeah, they're all on the computer, and the password is the same as before." I headed to the study, Maya suddenly stood up from the couch and followed closely behind Ethan. "Honey, I want to take a look too," she said in a sweet voice, her hand resting on Ethan's arm, deliberately flaunting their intimacy in front of me. In the study, I quickly found the project files while packing my personal belongings into the bag I had brought with me. Maya, pretending to be interested in the items on the bookshelf, kept inching closer to me, intentionally or not. "Be careful," Ethan said to her. "Don't tire yourself out." "I won't, I just wanted to see how President Sue usually works," Maya replied, her voice laced with a hint of sarcasm. "After all, we'll be seeing each other every day from now on." As I was organizing the files, Maya suddenly accidentally bumped into the table where I had placed the documents, scattering several important papers on the floor. "Oops, sorry," she feigned surprise, covering her mouth, but a glint of triumph flashed in her eyes. As I bent down to pick them up, I noticed that a few crucial pages, containing the core design concepts and cost analysis, were missing. When I looked up, I saw Maya's hand subtly slipping into her pocket. "Sorry, I didn't hold them steady." I stood up and reached out. "Can you hand me the papers that fell near you?" Maya put on an innocent face. "I don't have any here." Ethan frowned beside her. "Sophia, don't be unreasonable." I took a deep breath and continued organizing the files in silence. Ethan led Maya out of the study but didn't fully close the door. Their conversation clearly reached my ears. "He's so annoying," Maya complained. "Just bear with it. It'll be fine once he's gone." Ethan's voice sounded impatient. "Anyway, we've secured the project, and the Sue family is pretty much done for." "You're so clever," Maya giggled. "It took 5 years to go from a nobody to a top designer in the industry and secure so many resources. Women like Sophia, with their spoiled rich girl attitudes, are nothing without their fathers," Ethan said with disdain. "Once you've had the baby, we'll move abroad. By then, we'll have used up all the Sue family's resources." My hands paused, and my heart felt as if it had been squeezed hard. 5 years of love, in his eyes, was just a calculated game. I looked up at the awards and photos on the wall, the so-called honors of the design studio. Every single one was built on the Sue family's resources. After organizing the documents, I stood up and grabbed my suitcase to leave. Suddenly, Maya appeared at the study door, wearing a fake smile. "Ms. Sue, are you all packed?" "Yes," I said calmly, trying to step past her, but Maya deliberately blocked my way, suddenly clutching her forehead in feigned pain. "I feel so dizzy." She leaned forward, grabbing my arm for support, then collapsed to the ground with a sharp scream. My stomach. Ethan rushed in immediately, his face turning ashen at the sight of Maya on the floor. "Sophia, what did you do?" "He fell by himself," I said calmly, still trying to argue. Maya clutched her stomach and cried, "You clearly pushed me." Ethan was furious, snatching the documents from my hands. Get out now. If you dare harm Maya and my child, I won't let you off." "Don't say such things, darling." Maya feigned concern to stop me. "It's fine, I'm just in a little pain." Watching this clumsy act, I felt an indescribable mix of sorrow and disgust. Shin stepped forward and looked down at me. "Sophia, you'd better wise up. Don't think you're something special just because the Sue family backs you. I'm not without influence in this circle now." "Do you hate me that much?" I asked calmly. Ethan paused, then sneered. "I just chose the path that benefits me more." I nodded, picked up my suitcase, and headed for the door. Maya leaned into Ethan's arms, watching with satisfaction as I left in disarray. At the apartment entrance, I turned for one last look at Shin, who was carefully helping Maya up, both wearing the expressions of victors. As the elevator descended, I took a deep breath, fighting back the tears in my eyes, my fingers trembling slightly as I sent a message to Henry, "I'm coming back." When I stepped out of the apartment building with the suitcase hastily packed with only a few belongings, the night breeze cooled some of the heat clinging to me. I looked around and saw a low-key black Maybach parked by the roadside not far away. Its headlights flashed twice. Henry pushed the car door open and stepped out, his features appearing strikingly defined under the streetlight. Without asking any questions, he walked straight to me, naturally took the suitcase from my hand, and gently held my slightly cold fingers. Let's go. He led me to the car and opened the rear door. As I got in, a subtle sandalwood fragrance filled the cabin, exuding a comforting aura. Henry settled into the driver's seat and glanced at me through the rearview mirror. Hungry? I shook my head, then nodded, realizing I couldn't even answer the simplest question accurately. I'll take you home, he said, starting the car, his voice deep and gentle. 20 minutes later, the car stopped in front of a high-end apartment building in the city center, and the elevator went straight to the top floor. The moment the door opened, I was stunned by the view before me. The floor-to-ceiling windows revealed a dazzling cityscape, the night lights stretching endlessly. Do you like it? Henry set down my suitcase and pressed a switch on the wall, instantly bathing the room in soft, beautiful lighting. I walked to the window and pressed my palm against the cool glass. It's been empty for a while, just tied it up. He stepped into the kitchen and opened the fridge. What would you like to eat? You're going to cook? I asked, surprised. Yeah, it's not that hard. He rolled up his sleeves. But if you don't mind, my assistant has already ordered food for us. 10 minutes later, the doorbell rang, and a young man delivered several thermal containers. Henry took them and opened them one by one on the dining table. All dishes I liked. How did you know I enjoy these? I asked. He smiled. 8 years. Sophia. Behind the simple answer lay a long wait and observation. I couldn't help but lower my head, a twinge of guilt rising in my heart. Try this. He served me a bowl of soup, that old shop in the west of the city. You used to go there often in college. The taste of the soup is exactly the same as I remember. I drank half the bowl in one go. Only then realizing how hungry I actually was, I read Sue Group's financial report for last quarter. Henry suddenly said, "Your cost control for the project in the eastern suburbs is good, but the location choice is slightly lacking. If you shift it 2 kilometers north, closer to the tech park, the long-term ROI would increase by at least 15%. I put down my chopsticks and looked at him in surprise. You even know this? Just a habit of looking at data, he said flatly, yet revealing astonishing insight. Over the next 3 years, with the government's support policies for the tech industry, that area will experience explosive growth. Entering now, doubling the return in 3 years is no problem. I set down my bowl and chopsticks. Henry, what exactly do you do? Investments, and a bit of tech. He handed me a piece of pastry. But would you like to hear the specifics? Yes, I nodded. For the next half hour, Henry showed me his global layout. Spanning from artificial intelligence to clean energy, from quantum computing to biotechnology, the way he described future trends left me in awe. It wasn't just business acumen but a precise grasp of the direction of our era. Why me? I couldn't help but ask the question that had long puzzled me. With your capabilities and vision, why did you pursue me for 8 years? Henry set down his cup, his gaze drifting to the lights outside the window. 8 years ago, at that business forum, everyone was talking about how to make more money. Only you, in your speech, mentioned humanity and responsibility. You said urban planning of the future shouldn't just be a game of capital but should focus on the quality of life for ordinary people. My eyes widened slightly. That speech was my graduation project showcase. I never expected him to remember. That's when I knew you were different from them. He turned to me, his gaze intense. I watched you climb from design assistant to project director, showing exceptional insight and empathy at every step. I also watched you being misled by people like Ethan, but I believed you'd eventually see the truth, so I waited for you. That's incredible. Waiting for someone worth it is nothing, he said softly. My nose tingled, but I laughed. Are you sure it's not for the Sue family's resources, Sophia? He looked at me earnestly. I don't need anyone's resources, on the contrary. The support I can offer you far exceeds your imagination. I have my own plans. I met his gaze. I want to focus on developing Sue Group's strategic investment and urban planning sectors, no longer relying solely on real estate or Henry, nodding. That's a good idea. I can provide you with the strongest support in data analysis and technical forecasting. He paused, gently placing his hand over mine. But there's one condition. What condition? I asked warily. Stop calling me Henry. His eyes held a hint of amusement. We're married now, remember. It suddenly dawned on me that this crazy day had indeed made me Mrs. Hua. Looking into his smiling eyes, I no longer felt the pain and anger of betrayal, replaced instead by a strange sense of security and anticipation. "All right." I tentatively squeezed his hand in return. "Henry," he visibly froze for a moment before his smile deepened. "Hearing you call me that makes the 8-year wait worth it." Outside the window, a light rain began to fall, droplets hitting the glass and blurring the distant lights. The next day, as Hu Xingzhou and I walked into the most exclusive jewelry store in Nancheng, Orpha, nearly every sales associate turned to look at us. "Mr. Hu," the store manager hurried over, "what brings you in today?" Or Henry smiled faintly, taking my hand. "We're here to pick out a wedding ring for my wife." The term "my wife" sent a slight tremor through my heart. Even though we were already legally married, this relationship still felt like a dream to me. The manager's face lit up with a professional, radiant smile. "Please follow me. We've prepared our latest top-tier collection just for you." Inside the glass display cases, diamonds sparkled brilliantly under the lights. Henry stood beside me, his gaze never leaving my face. "Which one do you like?" "This one is nice." I pointed to a simple yet elegant platinum diamond ring, or Henry turned to the manager. "Let my wife try it on." I had just put on the ring when a familiar voice came from the shop entrance. "The items in this store suit you best. Don't look at the prices, just buy whatever you like." "Ethan." I looked up and met the surprised gazes of Ethan and Maya. Maya, with her flat stomach, was wearing an exaggerated maternity dress, her face brimming with smugness. Ethan's eyes darted between me and Henry, finally settling on the diamond ring on my finger. A flicker of anger flashed in his eyes before being replaced by a look of disdain. He tugged Maya along as he walked over. "Well, Sophia, you move fast," Ethan said sarcastically. "Yesterday you were ready to get a marriage certificate with me, and today you've already found someone new." I glanced at him but didn't respond, continuing to admire the ring on my finger. "And who is this gentleman?" Ethan looked Henry up and down, his tone dripping with contempt. "Aren't you going to introduce us?" Henry, standing beside me, instantly shed his usual gentle expression, a cold glint flashing in his eyes. He didn't answer, merely giving Ethan an icy stare that made the latter involuntarily take half a step back. "Sophia, you're becoming more and more disappointing," Ethan said, trying to mask his retreat with even sharper words. "Seems the rumors are true. Your Su family is in trouble and desperate for a backer." Maya coquettishly leaned on Ethan's shoulder. "Ethan, ignore him. I want that ruby necklace today." "Of course, my dear." Ethan wrapped his arm around Maya's waist and deliberately raised his voice. "In this store, I can buy you anything you want." As he said this, his eyes were fixed on me, as if hinting at something. "Really?" I finally spoke, my tone as calm as if discussing the weather. "Congratulations on finally having the means." Ethan's face darkened. "Sophia, let him go or—" Henry suddenly interjected, his voice low but powerful. "You have no right to approach my wife." "Wife, ha," Ethan sneered, "don't joke around. Sophia was still my girlfriend yesterday." Henry took out a small booklet from the inner pocket of his suit and gently placed it on the display case. It was our marriage certificate. Ethan's smile froze instantly as he stared wide-eyed at the booklet, reaching out in disbelief. "This must be fake. Sophia, what kind of trick are you playing?" Just as Ethan's fingers were about to touch the marriage certificate, Henry moved like lightning, grabbing his wrist. "I told you." Henry's voice was as cold as ice. "You have no right to touch it." Ethan tried to break free, but Henry's grip was unyielding like steel. His face twisted in pain, his eyes filled with fear and anger. "Let go of me." "Do you know who I am?" Ethan struggled futilely. "Just a clown." Henry released his grip, and Ethan staggered back a few steps. "Remember this certificate. If you dare harass my wife again, I'll make you regret ever being born." "Ethan." Maya let out a scream and suddenly clutched her stomach, collapsing to the ground. My stomach hurt so much. The surrounding customers and staff were drawn to the scene, casting curious glances. What kind of performance is this woman putting on? Henry coldly glanced at Maya before taking my hand. "Do you like that ring?" I nodded. "Then this one it is," he said to the store manager, "and pair it with a matching men's ring." Mysterious helped Maya up, his eyes filled with resentment and unwillingness. "I never expected." Sophia, Ethan said through gritted teeth. That you'd find such a powerful backer, Ethan. I smiled faintly, my voice soft but clear enough for him to hear. Weren't you curious about who he is? I watched Ethan's puzzled expression and continued slowly. Autech CEO Henry. Ethan's face instantly turned pale. The name Autech is legendary in the tech world, a global leader in AI and quantum computing, with a latest valuation exceeding $300 billion. Let's go, Henry said, taking my hand as we left the jewelry store under the respectful gazes of the staff. Stepping outside, I couldn't help but glance back. Through the glass window, Ethan stood frozen in place. His eyes filled with shock and regret. Stepping out of Orpheus Jewelry, I felt Henry's grip on my hand tighten slightly, his fingertips carrying a chill. Happy? He asked. The warmth in his eyes had faded, replaced by an unfamiliar coldness. I nodded, only to realize his attention was no longer on me. He pulled out his phone, quickly dialed a number, and activated the Skynet. Targets, Ethan, Maya. She issued the command tersely, her voice so low it was almost icy. Full coverage, no blind spots. What is the Skynet? I couldn't help but ask. Henry put away his phone, the corners of his lips curling into a meaningful smile. A net. One that leaves no room for two mice to escape. The car headed straight to the Hua Corporation's tech headquarters. It was my first time visiting his workplace. But I wasn't in the mood for a tour. The elevator went straight to the top floor. After passing through several security checkpoints, we arrived at a massive data center. The walls were lined with screens displaying flowing data, and at the center hovered a 3D projection showing countless spiderweb-like data nodes densely interconnected. Look, this is the Skynet, Henry said, standing before the control panel, his fingers lightly tracing through the air. The entire projection zoomed in with his gesture, one of the world's most advanced data analysis systems, capable of tracking, mining, and correlating every digital trace anyone leaves behind. I stepped into that projection and saw two red nodes flashing incessantly at the center. Ethan and Maya's names. 5 years ago when you rejected me, Ethan appeared on my radar. Henry's voice was calm, yet it sent chills down my spine. But I didn't act because it was your choice. Now it's different. The screen began flashing various information at lightning speed. Chat logs, photos, bank statements, call records, even deleted old posts and comments. I stared in shock. It felt like peeling open a person's soul and laying it bare for the world to see. Maya, 28 years old, without a bachelor's degree, yet forged a prestigious university diploma. A technician reported, evidence of fake pregnancy confirmed. 3 days ago, she purchased high-concentration fertility drugs and pregnancy tests at Love Life Pharmacy and forged someone else's ultrasound report at the hospital the same day. I gasped. Recalling Maya's performance at the jewelry store with her fake baby bump, feeling nothing but disgust, Ethan sighed. Henry asked, all data extracted. Another technician pulled up a detailed report, 16 instances of plagiarism evidence, 8 cases of embezzling project funds, totaling over $3 million. The relationship with Maya began 6 months ago, not the years-long love she claimed. Most shocking of all, she wasn't his only special assistant. The large screen displayed several photos of Ethan with different women in intimate poses. I looked at those photos without a flicker of emotion, only mocking myself for 5 years of blind trust. Are you ready? Henry turned. Once I press this button, their world will collapse in an instant. I looked at him and suddenly understood. You did this on purpose. You could have done it long ago, but you were waiting for me, to witness the truth firsthand. He didn't deny it. Just patiently waited for my decision. I took a deep breath and reached out to press the button on the control panel. In an instant, data streams surged like a flood. The information displayed on the screen was broadcast across major platforms, design industry forums, social media, news websites. Even the internal email systems of the company where the review was taking place. The deployment was complete, and the detonation began. The data curve is skyrocketing, a technician reported as we watched the monitoring screen. In less than 5 minutes, the hashtag Maya's forgery scandal had soared to the top of trending searches. 10 minutes later, major media outlets began following up with reports. 20 minutes after that, The design association where Ethan was affiliated issued a notice of expulsion, and their social media accounts were banned across all platforms, a female technician reported. Ethan just received a termination notice from the company, and all collaborative projects have been suspended. I watched the live surveillance feed on the screen. Ethan stood in the company lobby, holding a cardboard box, his face ashen. Maya was at home, breaking down in tears, frantically smashing furniture. "One final blow," Henry said calmly, tapping a few keys on the control panel. The large screen displayed the freezing of the accounts under the Review Design Studios name. And Maya's fraud case had been officially accepted by the police. Their entire social network had completely collapsed. "It's over." He turned to me, the coldness in his eyes gradually fading. "From now on, they will cease to exist. At least in this city, they will have no place left." Standing in the flickering light of the data stream, I felt a surge of satisfaction, yet also an indescribable emptiness. "What's wrong?" Henry walked over to me, his tone much gentler now. "Too quick," I whispered. 5 years of emotions, 5 years of trust, vanished just like pressing the delete key. Henry looked at me and said, "It's not vanishing, Sophia, but paying the price they deserve." I nodded and looked up at him. "What kind of person are you, really?" He reached out his hand to me, his eyes gleaming with a mysterious light. My phone kept vibrating. I put down the pastry I was eating, frowned, and glanced at the screen. "Ethan, Sophia, please answer the call. I'm begging you, Ethan, I was wrong. I really know I was wrong, Ethan. It was all Maya who seduced me. I was tricked by her. Ethan, please come back. Okay, let's start over." Dozens of similar messages piled up in the notification bar, and this was just a small portion of what I received in the past half hour. Since Henry pressed the button to activate the system, Ethan and Maya's world completely collapsed within just a few hours. "Still bothering you?" Henry walked out of the kitchen, holding 2 cups of hot tea. I nodded, directly muted my phone, and casually set it aside. "Don't worry, he won't be able to stir up trouble for much longer." Henry sat down beside me and handed me a tablet. "Want to see the current situation?" The screen displayed real-time trending lists from major social platforms. Jinghao, Ethan. Maya fraud scandal. ### renowned designer plagiarism controversy. ### fake pregnancy. Marriage fraud alert. These topics firmly occupied the top 5 spots. On short video platforms, Ethan's once proudly showcased design works were being torn apart, with original designers stepping forward one after another to expose his plagiarism. Some even dug up intimate photos of him with different women, starkly contrasting the devoted and affectionate persona he had crafted in public. He had just posted an apology letter on a designer forum. Henry scrolled through the screen, only to find the comment section flooded with insults. It had already been forcibly shut down by the platform. As I looked at those screenshots and videos, I didn't feel the expected satisfaction, just a strange calm. "He texted me saying he wants to die," I murmured. Henry raised an eyebrow. "Want to know his real-time location?" I shook my head. "No need. People like him don't even have the courage to end their own lives." Sure enough, half an hour later, the technical team sent word that Ethan had taken a large amount of sleeping pills at home but was discovered by the property management and rushed to the hospital. He failed to end his life as intended, but the overdose caused brain damage, potentially permanently robbing him of his design abilities. This was retribution. I closed the tablet and gazed at the city's nightscape outside the window. Maya's fate was even more brutal than Ethan's. The Skynet not only exposed her forged academic credentials and plagiarism of others' designs but also revealed her history of blackmailing wealthy businessmen by threatening pregnancy. One of the tech giants she had deceived was particularly furious and personally stepped in to deal with this repeat offender. Lu Zhan of the Lu Group took action. Henry looked at the latest message he had received, a hint of surprise in his tone. It seems Maya had finally bitten off more than she could chew. The name rang a bell. Lu Zhan had founded a globally leading chip company in his early 30s and was known as Silicon Valley's rising star. Criminal methods have always been ruthless and direct. Within 3 days, Maya had completely vanished from the public eye. It wasn't until a week later that her agent posted a brief statement on social media, claiming Maya was withdrawing from the business world due to health reasons and permanently ceasing all public activities. Henry's intelligence network was sharper than public information. She told me that after an accident, Maya not only lost the child she was carrying but also permanently lost her fertility during the so-called treatment process. The weapon she had used to control men ultimately became the tool of her own destruction. "Are you satisfied with this outcome?" Henry asked me, her eyes probing. I set down my teacup and shook my head. To say I was satisfied would be cruel. To say I wasn't would be hypocritical. I just think it's the consequence of their own actions, the fruit they've sown. Henry nodded, seemingly satisfied with my answer. He reached out and held my hand, saying, "Now, we should look forward." A month later, I officially took over the comprehensive reform of the Sioux Group's Eastern District project. With Henry's technical support, we perfectly integrated traditional real estate development with smart technology, creating the industry's first truly intelligent community. On the opening day, sales hit a historic high. My father specially flew back from abroad and, looking at the sales figures, wore the brightest smile I'd ever seen. "Xiao Yang, you've really grown up," he said, patting my shoulder before turning to Henry, who was standing nearby. "Young Master Hua, thank you for supporting my daughter." Henry smiled without a word, simply giving my hand a gentle squeeze. That night, we stood on the rooftop of the project's exhibition center, overlooking the city lights. "I heard Shin-yi has been discharged from the hospital," Henry suddenly said, "but he doesn't recognize anyone anymore, including Maya." I didn't respond, just quietly gazed into the distance. "Do you regret it?" Henry asked softly. I turned to meet his eyes. "Regret what? That they got what they deserved, or that I wasted 5 years?" Henry chuckled. "Neither. I meant, do you regret marrying me?" I paused, then shook my head. "That's probably one of the few decisions in my life I'll never regret." Henry's eyes lit up. He pulled out a small black box from his pocket. "Then, would you marry me again? The official kind." Inside the box was a diamond ring even more dazzling than the one at Ophelia Jewelry. "This is the surprise I prepared for you," he said, his voice uncharacteristically tender. "A wedding that truly belongs to us." As I looked into his eyes, I felt genuine security and happiness for the first time. "Tell me, Sophia," he whispered. "This time it's out of love, not revenge, right?" I turned around and buried my face in his chest. "But now I just want to be a little woman, held by you." Henry's fingers gently stroked my hair. "Only I get to see this side of you, don't I?" "Of course." I looked up at him. "President Sue's softness is reserved for Mr. Hua alone." He smiled, the laugh lines at the corners of his eyes making my heart race. This man, so decisive in the business world, is always unbelievably gentle with me. "Want to see something?" He took my hand and led me to the study. The wall of the study suddenly lit up with a projection, displaying a timeline marked with countless dates and times. "What is this?" I asked curiously. "Our trajectory." Henry pressed the remote, and the timeline began to move dynamically. 8 years ago. Your speech at the business forum. I was sitting in the third row on the right. The screen switched to a blurry video of a younger me standing on stage, speaking eloquently, full of idealism. 6 years ago, you almost lost that bid," he continued, "because someone was sabotaging you behind the scenes." "I remember that," I said, surprised. "In the end, the other party suddenly withdrew, and we won the project." "It was you," he nodded. "Just had Skynet analyze the opponent's financial loopholes and anonymously reported them to the tax bureau." I watched as the timeline advanced, shocked to discover that Henry had been silently observing my every move even during my relationship with Ethan, secretly helping me whenever I faced difficulties. "Why did you do this?" I asked. "Back then, I didn't even know you, because I saw your worth." His voice was low and firm. "Not just in business, but as a person, you're much stronger than you think." Barefaced, I take a deep breath. "So, Skynet isn't just a tool to deal with Ethan and Maya, it's one of the most powerful systems I've ever created." Henry opens another interface, displaying a real-time map of global data flows. It can predict market trends, analyze policy changes, and even guide public opinion when necessary. staring at those intricate data streams, I suddenly understand something. So, you're not just an ordinary tech CEO, I prefer to see myself as an observer. He smiles and closes the projection. And you're the only variable I want to involve. This realization both shocks and comforts me. Henry's power far exceeds my imagination, yet he never uses it to control me, only to support me in becoming my best self. Scared, he asks softly. I shake my head. On the contrary, I feel safe, not because of your abilities, but because of your choices. You choose to use this power to protect, not to control. Henry's eyes light up. This is why I waited 8 years. You always see what others miss. I rise on my toes to kiss the corner of his lips. So, Mr. Hua, how do you plan to use your superpowers now? First, he wraps an arm around my waist. I'll use them to ensure my wife doesn't have to wake up early tomorrow. How? I ask curiously. He smirks mysteriously. It's already arranged. The board meeting was rescheduled urgently. Apparently, several key directors' flights were delayed due to weather. I raise an eyebrow. Another Skynet miracle. No. Just the cunning of a man who wants to spend the weekend with his wife. Span. His fingers brush my cheek. We could go to the beach house. Just the two of us. Sounds perfect, I murmur, leaning against his chest. But I have an important meeting next Wednesday. I know. He nods. I'll make sure you're back on time. Well rested and inspired. This is how we work. He never interferes with my decisions, only offers the best support, and I respect his domain in return. We're partners, not appendages. By the way, something suddenly occurred to me. Today at the summit, someone asked me how I managed to climb onto your towering tree. Henry's eyes instantly turned cold. Who said that? I shook my head with a smile. It doesn't matter. What matters is that I told them. I deliberately paused. I told them it was you who climbed onto my tree. Henry was stunned for a moment, then burst into laughter, the sound echoing through the study. That's why I love you, Sophia. You always know how to surprise me. Just telling the truth, I blinked playfully. After all, who was it that chased me for 8 years? He lowered his head to kiss me, gentle yet firm. If necessary, I'd chase you for 80 years. Next, I'll tell you the second story. He's about to die. What's wrong with me having a child with him? Can't you be a little more generous? Didn't you always want to marry me? Once Aran is pregnant, I'll marry you. Without a word of protest, I calmly booked a ticket home, silently counting down the time to leave Peter Wilson. Yet, he traveled thousands of miles, his eyes red and burning, kneeling before me. You promised to marry me. Why are you abandoning me? I was operating the ticket purchase app on my phone, and when the screen displayed purchase successful, I finally let out a sigh of relief. Immediately after, I called my parents. They were both shocked and overjoyed. Shocked that I could finally let go of Peter Wilson, and overjoyed that after 8 years apart, I was finally willing to reunite with them. You cut ties with us for years because of that guy, yet he never gave you an answer for those 8 years. It's good that you've come to your senses. The flight is in 3 days, right? When you return, Michael Nan said he has a big surprise for you. Well, then I'll just wait for the surprise Michael Nan has prepared in 3 days. I agreed with a smile, but my heart ached unbearably. From freshman year until now, I've waited for Peter Wilson 8 years. I originally thought that once his career stabilized, he would walk with me into the halls of marriage, but I never expected he would just inform me that he was going to have a child with another woman, Peter Wilson. The moment he opened the door and came back, I had just hung up the phone, and behind him followed Rachel Han. Where are you going in 3 days? Are you going out? He frowned at me, his tone full of doubt. I casually brushed it off with a vague response. Yeah, in 3 days, a friends gathering. What friends do you even have here? Before our son could speak, Rachel Han interrupted him. Emily, it's all because of me that you and Ijo are fighting. It's all my fault. As he spoke, he lowered his head, and only the sound of soft sobbing could be heard. Peter Wilson's attention shifted back to him, his eyes filled with tenderness and pity. Rachel Han, why are you apologizing? This isn't your fault. Then, as if he had made some decision, he turned to face me solemnly. Since our last argument, he hadn't come home for over a week. Emily, what I told you last time was that, whether you agree or not, I've already made up my mind. He looked at Rachel Han with unbearable affection. She's already so pitiful. I can't deny her this dream of becoming a mother. Rachel Han looked at me with reddened eyes, but her words were full of provocation. Emily, I know this is unfair to you, but I have no other choice. Even though you're older, you still have opportunities in the future. She bit her lip, looking pitiful and endearing. As soon as I get pregnant, I'll leave immediately and never disturb you and Peter Wilson again. With that, she even knelt before me. Peter Wilson quickly supported her, his expression full of heartache, but his gaze toward me was icy and piercing. Emily Nan, Rachel has already knelt before you. What more do you want? Rachel Han, she's already suffering from illness. Must you make things harder for her? Let me make this clear. I won't marry you until Rachel Han is pregnant. I quietly watched Peter Wilson, this man who had never once raised his voice at me before, now carefully supporting another woman while hurling harsh words at me. Without even saying a word, I had already been cast as their enemy. Thinking of the plane ticket in 3 days, I suppressed all my emotions and forced out the words with difficulty. Fine, I agree to compensate. Peter Wilson was taken aback, seemingly surprised that I accepted it so quickly. But when he saw the delighted look in Rachel Han's eyes, his face lit up with joy. That's great, Emily. I knew you'd understand me. Once Rachel is pregnant, I'll marry you, he said, moving to hug me. But when he noticed Rachel Han's slightly uncomfortable expression, he abruptly stopped his stiff motion, leaving me with a heavy feeling in my chest. I excused myself to take a walk outside, and Peter Wilson followed me. Emily, are you upset? You know, Rachel and I grew up together. Now that both her parents have passed away, I can't just abandon her. Nothing will happen between us. I've always treated her like a sister. It's just a temporary arrangement. How about we go try on wedding dresses tomorrow? He held my hand, gazing at me affectionately. Our wedding is only 2 weeks away, yet his repeatedly cancelled plans for Rachel Han, and now he's treating this as some kind of reward for me. I gave a bitter smile and was about to speak when Rachel Han's voice came through. Ah, it hurts so much. Peter Wilson, upon hearing this, immediately let go of my hand and rushed inside. As if afraid of missing some precious treasure, my heart turned cold, and I walked out without looking back. There was no word from Peter Wilson the entire afternoon. Only in the evening did I receive a WeChat message. Rachel got scolded at the sailor this afternoon. I took her home and won't be back tonight. Remember to meet at the bridal shop tomorrow morning. I didn't reply. The wedding dress I had longed for so eagerly now seemed far less appealing. The next morning, after submitting my resignation at the company, I still showed up at the bridal shop on time. 10 years. Let it be the fulfillment of a wish in my heart. I waited for nearly 3 hours. Just as I was about to leave, he arrived late, hand in hand with Rachel Han. The handsome man and beautiful woman were impossible to ignore. Even the shop assistant beside me remarked, "Wow, this couple is so good-looking, and look how the man shields his wife while crossing the road. He treats her so well." I let out a silent, bitter laugh. If they knew the real bride was sitting right here, their thoughts would probably change. Emily, Rachel said she had never worn a wedding dress before, so Peter Wilson didn't bother making excuses for being late. His first words were all about Rachel Han, "Which is why you brought him along to try on dresses with us." I cut him off before he could finish, and Rachel Han immediately teared up, looking at him with watery eyes. "Brother Ijo, was it wrong for me to come?" Peter Wilson gently comforted her, then glared at me fiercely. "Emily Nan, why do you always pick on someone who's unwell? You're about to marry me. Can't you just let her have this?" Peter Wilson's self-righteous words left me stunned. It was the first time I'd ever heard of a fiancé being something you could let go of. After an awkward pause, the shop assistant gave him a look that spoke volumes, as if realizing his own words were out of line. He rubbed his nose and added, "Rachel isn't the scheming type. She just wanted to see how she'd look in a wedding dress. Emily, you understand, don't you?" "No, I don't. I'll never understand people who insert themselves into others' relationships just to feel important. In the past, I would have made a scene. But now that I'm leaving anyway, I can't be bothered to argue with them." I flashed a smile and cheerfully agreed. Just then, Peter Wilson's expression briefly showed surprise. He was about to speak to me when Rachel Han interrupted. Peter Wilson, do you think this looks good on me? His attention immediately shifted as he walked over with gentle affection, making Rachel Han the new center of attention. She kept picking and choosing, while Peter Wilson followed beside her, helpless yet doting, carrying item after item. Only when Rachel Han went to try on wedding dresses did he notice I hadn't moved from my seat. Why aren't you picking a dress? Let me help you choose. Perhaps feeling slightly negligent as a fiancé, his tone carried a hint of guilt. Rachel is just being childish. Don't take it to heart. My lips moved, but in the end, I didn't speak. Rachel Han's voice came through instead. Emily, can you help me? The dress is too tight, and the clumsy hurt me. I wondered why she didn't call Peter Wilson, but Peter Wilson was looking at me with pleading eyes. How ironic. My own husband begging me to help another woman into her wedding dress. With a cold expression, I walked over and saw Rachel Han beaming at me. For a moment, I doubted. She really didn't look sick. With just her words and an electronic diagnosis, Peter Wilson believed her. Emily, Peter Wilson and I are going to have a baby soon. You must be upset, right? I stared at her without speaking, but she tilted her head and smiled at me. Do you think Peter Wilson will believe you or me? Just as I was pondering the meaning of her words, she suddenly collapsed to the ground with a sharp scream. Ah, it hurts, Emily. Why would you do this to me? His eyes were filled with disbelief, his shoulders trembling slightly as tears streamed down his face. Peter Wilson rushed over the moment he heard the scream. He looked at the fallen Rachel Han, then at my indifferent expression, as if he had already reached a conclusion in his heart. Emily Nan, what have you done to Rachel this time? So, in his eyes, I was truly such a malicious person. Rachel Han shook her head slightly. It must be because I upset Emily. I don't blame her. Peter Wilson, don't be angry. Her eyes were red, her expression a mix of sorrow and forced strength, which made Peter Wilson's heart ache. You're just too kind, that's why others take advantage of you. He scooped up Rachel Han in his arms and glared coldly at me. Don't you have anything to say? I didn't touch her, my face remained calm, but inside, I was raging over Peter Wilson's unconditional trust in her. Are you saying Rachel fell on purpose to frame you? Do you think I'm a fool? Peter Wilson's face was frighteningly dark. Rachel Han, hearing these words, lowered her head guiltily. Ijo, let's go. My foot hurts so much. You should reflect on yourself. I'll come back when you've figured things out. He carried Rachel Han away without looking back. I didn't miss the triumph and pride in Rachel Han's eyes. She certainly had the right to be proud. I lost completely. In love, the one who is loved is the winner. The shop assistant looked at me cautiously. Is the wedding dress still? I shook my head. No, and it never will be. Keep the deposit. I then went to the wedding planning company and cancelled everything. Only after that did I finally let out a long sigh of relief. I was leaving tomorrow, and before that, I really needed to clean up all these things. Before I even got home, Peter Wilson's call came through. Emily, are you happy now? Rachel Han sprained her foot and can't get out of bed for days. I listened quietly without saying a word. After a moment of silence on the other end, he sighed heavily. Emily, when will you ever grow up? Do you really want me to marry you while carrying this guilt toward Rachel Han? Come to the hospital and apologize to Rachel Han. Or I'll have to seriously reconsider our marriage. His tone was condescending, as if I weren't his girlfriend of 8 years. I paused briefly, then agreed. Fine, I'll go. There was a slight hesitation on the other end before he gave me the hospital and room number. Without hesitation, I turned and headed for the hospital. Just outside the hospital room, I heard the delicate sobbing inside. Brother Ijo, I really don't know why Emily would treat me like this. Maybe I shouldn't have appeared at all. Maybe I should just wait to die alone. Before she could finish, Peter Wilson interrupted her with heartache. Don't talk nonsense, Rachel. I won't let you leave my side. With your parents gone, I will definitely take care of you. As for Emily, don't overthink it. She just cares about me too much and wants to marry me. She could never leave me. I gripped the door handle tightly but hesitated to push it open. So, Peter Wilson knew exactly how much I cared for him. He knew what I wanted, yet he kept hesitating, never giving me a clear answer. Only now did I realize that these 8 years were nothing but a joke. I pushed the door open and walked in. The two people cuddling on the hospital bed froze in awkwardness for a moment before quickly separating to look at me. Rachel Han wore a smug expression, while Peter Wilson looked flustered. He hurriedly spoke up, "Emily." Rachel Han was too upset. I was just comforting her. I raised my hand to cut him off. "I know, you don't need to report such things to me. Isn't it only natural for you, as her childhood friend, to take care of her now that her parents are gone?" His face flashed with anger. "Emily, what are you trying to stir up now? Do you have to speak with such sarcasm?" Rachel Han's tears welled up right on cue. "Don't blame Emily. It's all my fault for being careless." Her shoulders trembled slightly before she suddenly broke into uncontrollable coughs. Peter Wilson panicked and hurriedly supported him, while Emily Nan said, "Don't keep pushing my limits." His eyes were bloodshot, staring straight at me as he demanded an apology. "Fine, I'll apologize. I shouldn't have stopped you two scumbags from getting together. But don't worry, from now on, no one will stand in your way. You're too filthy, Peter Wilson. I don't want you anymore, let's break up." After saying that, I ignored Peter Wilson's stunned and bewildered expression, ignored Rachel Han's gleeful gaze, and pushed the door open to leave. Behind me, Peter Wilson's deafening roar followed. "Emily, if you have the guts, don't come begging me to take you back like before." I paid no attention and went straight back to the home I'd lived in for 8 years, starting to pack my things. My phone buzzed with a WeChat message from Peter Wilson. "Emily Nan, you've really gone too far this time. Think it over carefully and contact me when you've figured it out. Let's not see each other for a while. We both need to cool off." I didn't reply and instead took a taxi straight to the airport. Before boarding the plane, I sent him one last WeChat message, "We're breaking up." The next second, my phone started ringing incessantly. A 6-hour flight isn't exactly short. As I reminisced about the past 8 years with Peter Wilson, I gradually drifted off to sleep. After landing and collecting my luggage, I saw my parents and Michael Nan waiting for me with smiles. My eyes welled up, and I rushed toward them. My brother flicked my forehead with a snap, the pain nearly bringing me to tears. "You brat. You forgot about your brother the moment you got a boyfriend. Finally decided to come back and see me." Back when I left home to be with Peter Wilson, my brother was the first to object. We fought over it for a long time. And in recent years, we hadn't even been in contact. He warned me that Peter Wilson, after all these years, still hadn't given me any commitment. Someone like that couldn't be relied on. But back then, my mind was filled only with Peter Wilson, and I wouldn't listen. Thinking about it now, my eyes reddened again. Mom nudged my brother and scolded, "Emily just got back, and you're already teasing her. Do you want me to teach you a lesson?" Michael Nan immediately raised his hands in surrender. And I couldn't help but laugh. It had been so long since I'd felt the warmth of home, and my heart was full. Amid the cozy atmosphere, an unfamiliar laugh caught my attention. I turned to see a strikingly handsome man standing beside my brother, even taller than him. I gave Michael Nan a puzzled look. He raised an eyebrow. "Don't recognize him, the heartthrob from our school back then. He used to visit our house, and you adored him, always wanted him as your brother and tried to kick me out." Not calling him heartthrob brother anymore, I searched my memory but couldn't recall anything. The man, however, extended his hands warmly and smiled at me. "Let's start over. I'm Daniel Gu." I awkwardly reached out my hand. Emily, my brother, looked at the two of us with a knowing smile and quietly asked me, "So, do you like this surprise?" My face flushed, and I pretended not to hear, calmly letting my mother lead me home by the hand. As soon as I got home and turned on my phone, I saw 99 missed calls and messages, all from Peter Wilson. "Emily, you actually blocked me. Rachel Han is already pregnant. We found out this morning. Let's just forget about what happened last time. Aran said she won't hold it against you." Reading these messages, I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. Over the past 8 years, every time we fought, I was the one who caved and apologized first. Now that we've broken up, Peter Wilson probably thinks I'll come crawling back to him again. Too bad. This time, he's in for a disappointment. Losing patience, I was about to block his number too when my phone rang the next second. It was Peter Wilson. "Emily, why did you turn off your phone last night? Are you still mad? Look, now that Rachel Han is pregnant, our wedding can go ahead as planned. Stop making a fuss, I'll pick you up tonight. And we'll have dinner with Ran, he rambled on over the phone, but I frowned and cut him off. Peter Wilson, didn't you see the message I sent you? We've already broken up, don't bother me anymore, let's just part on good terms. Without waiting for his reply, I hung up. He seemed furious. And the phone rang again the next second, but I decisively blocked him. Finally, peace and quiet. I thought I'd lose sleep after leaving Peter Wilson, but surprisingly, I slept soundly through the night. The next morning, I was woken up by an unfamiliar number. Frowning, I answered the call and heard the furious voice of Peter Wilson. Emily, did you have to make such a scene? If I hadn't gone to your company, I wouldn't have known you quit. He sighed again. Now that Rachel Han is pregnant, she has no regrets left. I've also said I'll marry you. What more do you want? Can you stop making trouble? Listening to his words, I felt like I'd been blind all along. In the past, I would have been furious, broken down, and made a scene. But now, I just calmly asked him, Peter Wilson, do you still think I'm just making trouble? I've made myself very clear. We're over. As for you and Rachel Han, there's no need to report to me. That's your business. Let's part on good terms. And stop doing these cheap things to try and keep me. There was a stunned silence on the other end of the line. He seemed shocked to hear these words from me. In our 8 years together, I'd brought up marriage countless times, but he always refused, citing work as the reason. I thought, if he's too busy, I'll take the initiative. So last year, on my birthday, I put on a wedding dress, prepared a cake and a ring, and waited excitedly at home for him to return from work. But all I got was her furious warning, Emily Nan, stop doing these cheap things. You know perfectly well that Rachel Han can't handle any more shocks right now. What's your ulterior motive for provoking him like this? I froze, unable to understand how Rachel Han's illness was related to our marriage. But he had already grabbed his coat and walked out. I sat alone until late at night, scrolling through social media at midnight, where I saw Rachel Han's update. Without family, you are my last support. In the video, Peter Wilson was wearing an apron, intently cooking porridge. I had been with him for 8 years, and he had never cooked before. I never expected to see this domestic side of him. As I watched the video, tears uncontrollably streamed down my face. It was from that moment on that I gradually lost hope in him. Up until now, Peter Wilson, I never thought the words he once said would come back like a boomerang to strike him between the eyes. His tone seemed momentarily urgent. Emily, I know I haven't been giving you much attention lately, but there's a reason for it. You wouldn't want me to be a heartless person, right? Now that we can finally make things work, aren't you happy, Emily? I rubbed my temples, feeling for the first time that communicating with Peter Wilson was so difficult. I even began to question why I had ever liked someone like him in the first place. 8 years, I hung up the phone, no longer willing to entertain his nonsense. Daniel Gu's message came through at that moment. Do you have time tonight? There are some work-related matters I'd like to discuss with you. After adding him on WeChat yesterday, I found out that, like me, he was also in the legal profession. However, he had been studying abroad and only recently returned, so he wasn't entirely familiar with the domestic market. Considering my current situation, I agreed. Since he was back, it was only natural to plan for both work and life. Daniel Gu was someone who understood the finer things in life, although it was supposed to be a work discussion. He chose a romantic French restaurant as the venue. At first, I felt a bit reserved, but as the conversation deepened, I realized he wasn't as rigid as he appeared. Actually, I studied law because of someone. His eyes seemed to twinkle with starlight, and my curiosity was instantly piqued. Who is it? First love, I asked with a smile. Well, not yet, but he's definitely my first love. I've been waiting for him. I was surprised. Who would have thought the great lawyer Gu was such a romantic? I wonder which lucky girl has caught his heart. He gazed at me intently. Emily, would you like to give us a try? Ever since you said as a child that you wanted to marry a lawyer, I've worked hard to become one. Will you give me this chance now? I was stunned by his sudden confession, feeling puzzled. I was about to ask him when a faint childhood memory flashed through my mind. Back then, the kids in our neighborhood always played together. Daniel Gu was close to my brother and lived next door. So naturally, We spent a lot of time together. Whenever we played house, I always wanted to be the lawyer. As a child, I thought lawyers were cool and just from watching TV, so I once said I'd only marry a lawyer. It was just a childish joke, but I never expected someone to take it seriously. I was about to speak when my phone suddenly rang. It was my brother, Emily. Peter Wilson, that guy's causing a scene downstairs. Want me to teach him a lesson? My expression darkened. I thought I'd made myself clear, but I never imagined Peter Wilson would abandon the pregnant Rachel Han and chase after me. I rushed over in a panic. Daniel Gu, seeing how frantic I was, drove me there. I didn't refuse. When I arrived downstairs, I saw Peter Wilson with a split lip, blood seeping from the corner of his mouth. I walked past him as his eyes lit up at the sight of me, but I went straight to my brother and asked worriedly, "Are you okay, bro?" He shook his head. If I weren't afraid of causing trouble, I'd really want to beat him to death. Peter Wilson looked at me with disbelief. "Emily, can't you see I'm hurt? You weren't like this before." In the past, when he accidentally bruised his leg playing basketball, I would tearfully apply medicine for him while feeling heartbroken. But he also said that was in the past. I stared coldly at Peter Wilson. "Who are you putting on this affectionate act for now?" He looked utterly devastated. "Emily, after hanging up the phone yesterday, I rushed to book a ticket and came here without stopping. Are you really this unwelcoming?" I sneered at him. "What? Rachel Han isn't welcoming you anymore. You come here to seek validation." "Peter Wilson, I said we should part amicably. Stop bothering me. I don't want this to get ugly." As I turned to leave, he angrily tried to grab me. "Explain yourself clearly, Emily. Do I need to teach you a lesson?" Before the words could even leave my mouth, Daniel Gu yanked me aside. With his height advantage, Peter Wilson nearly stumbled. "Who are you? What business do you have interfering in matters between me and my girlfriend?" Daniel Gu merely dusted off his hands lightly, as if brushing off some trash he just touched, then casually replied, "Who I am doesn't matter. What matters is that Emily told you to leave her alone. Can't you hear?" My brother also stood there arrogantly in front of Daniel Gu, declaring loudly, "This is my legitimate brother-in-law. Who the hell do you think you are, coming here to make a fool of yourself? If I see you again, I'll beat you up every time." Peter Wilson seemed stunned by these words, his face shifting through a range of emotions. His voice grew louder. "Emily Nan, just because I got Rachel Han pregnant. You're using this guy to spite me. Don't kid yourself. I played you for 8 years. Who else would want you? You're nothing but a—" His words were cut off by Daniel Gu's fist. I thought hearing these words would devastate me, but I didn't feel a thing. Instead, I just thought to myself, of course, this person is rotten to the core. Having rehearsed this scenario countless times in my mind, I wasn't the least bit surprised by his venomous words. Still, it felt like someone had stomped on my heart. I didn't bother with what happened next. The three of them ended up at the police station, but not long after, my brother came back with Daniel Gu. I heard that Peter Wilson received a phone call saying something about unstable fetal signs and the pregnant woman being emotionally agitated, so he left in a hurry. My brother was shocked, and amid Peter Wilson's mention of Rachel Han's pregnancy, I had no choice but to confess everything truthfully. My mother shed tears of heartache, while my father remained silent, though his furrowed brows revealed his feelings at that moment. My brother clenched his fists, ready to kill that heartless man. I was torn between laughter and tears, and it took a lot of persuasion to calm him down. After all, I truly want nothing to do with Peter Wilson now. Daniel Gu listened quietly and remained silent for a long time. Suddenly, he asked me, "Did you say they were abstaining from sperm? Was it through proper channels?" I was taken aback and shook my head. "I don't know about that. I wasn't involved, and he never told me the specifics. What are you planning?" I looked at Daniel Gu with slight confusion. "They've treated you so unfairly. We can't just let it go." It was the first time I saw such a sharp and domineering look in Daniel Gu's eyes. He was standing up for me. I shook my head, dismissing this unrealistic thought from my mind. It's normal for him to stay updated on various current affairs now that he runs a studio, and controversial topics like sperm donation fall under that category. My mom kept gently patting my back, comforting me, saying, "Just don't think about anything during this time." rest well at home. Look at what you've endured these past 8 years." As she spoke, she wiped away tears again. I didn't know how to comfort her. Daniel Gu spoke up at the right moment. "Emily, why don't you come to my studio? We're short-staffed, and you have experience in this field. Besides, having something to do is better than overthinking alone." His voice was warm and soothing, and I found myself nodding unconsciously. Okay. By the time I realized what I had agreed to, he was already pulling my mom into the kitchen with a delighted expression. Watching him get along so harmoniously with my family, I couldn't help but feel that giving him a chance might not be such a bad idea. Working with Daniel Gu turned out to be unexpectedly busy. The studio had just opened, and there were endless tasks waiting for us every day. During this time, I gradually forgot about Peter Wilson, until he came looking for me again. It was my mom's birthday, and I brought Daniel Gu home for dinner as per her instructions. As soon as we reached the entrance of the neighborhood, I saw Peter Wilson squatting on the ground, holding something in his hand. I stared at him expressionlessly, wondering what he was up to this time. When he noticed me, he immediately stood up, almost losing his balance from squatting for so long. I asked coldly, "What do you want?" His face wore an ingratiating smile as he said, "Emily, look, what's this?" "The engagement ring I bought Emily. I later went to the bridal shop, and the staff told me the truth. I know I wronged you, and I waited so long for you to come back. Emily, didn't we promise to be together forever?" Rachel Han. "I won't bother with him anymore. Don't be angry." "Fine, don't answer." It's rare to hear such words from him for the first time. If it were before, I probably would have been moved to tears, but now I just find it laughable. "Peter Wilson, who do you think you are? Some hot commodity? You think you're so special? I stopped loving you long ago and already broke up with you. Did you think everyone is Rachel Han, who enjoys being entangled with someone like you in such a messy way? Stop disgusting me. Don't make me look down on you." His face flashed with a moment of confusion, followed by indescribable heartache. "Emily, you never used to talk to me like this. I've already cut ties with Rachel Han. Emily, I was wrong before. Won't you forgive me?" I looked at him in surprise. "You've cut ties with her? How can that be? She's still carrying your child." "Peter Wilson, didn't you say that? She has no parents and can only rely on you. How could you forget your own words so quickly?" His face grew paler, but I acted as if I didn't notice and continued, "You need to take good care of her, or else one day you'll regret it. 2 lives lost. Emily, are you really going to give up on our 8 years together?" His voice trembled slightly, as if he was still trapped in his own world, unable to accept it. Daniel Gu had been watching me the whole time, his eyes holding a hint of expectation. I looked at Peter Wilson with amusement. What 8-year relationship? To me now, those 8 years feel more like a criminal record, a stain on my life that I definitely won't repeat. Give it up, and don't bother me again. After saying this, I walked straight past him, holding Daniel Gu's hand as we stepped into the elevator. Peter Wilson stood frozen in place, not chasing after us. Seeing the hand I was holding, I quickly let go. "Sorry, I got a little emotional just now. Don't mind it." He didn't say anything, just smiled and waved his hand. By the time we got home, the living room was already filled with all kinds of dishes, waiting for Daniel Gu and me. After dinner, as I drank tea with my mom and watched Daniel Gu play chess with my dad, I suddenly felt an indescribable warmth and happiness. On a whim, when I walked Daniel Gu downstairs, I said to him, "Daniel Gu, let's give it a try." He seemed stunned for a second before excitedly picking me up and spinning me around. Seeing him like this, I couldn't help but giggle. The usually aloof lawyer Gu actually had this side to him. His voice was especially charming as he said, "Emily, thank you for giving me this chance." "Thank you." Hearing his sincere gratitude, I froze for a moment. To think I'd actually met such a gentle man, it felt like I'd truly left Peter Wilson behind. Things are moving in a positive direction. That day, while I was in the office handling a newly assigned case, Daniel Gu suddenly called me over to see if I was interested in this case. He naturally pulled me into his lap as I carefully read through it. A surrogacy agency had been exposed. $750,000 for a surrogate, with an additional $200,000 for gender selection. By the end, I fell silent. The news had just broken today, and at the end of the article was Rachel Han's photo and information, so his claim about having bone cancer was indeed a lie. Only Peter Wilson had believed it. I wondered what expression Peter Wilson would have when he found out. I looked at Daniel Gu and said playfully, "So, this was Peter Wilson's doing." He smiled at me, and I was surprised. How could that be? Daniel Gu tapped my nose and said, "Absolutely true, it's a big deal," my friend on the inside told me. It turned out Peter Wilson accidentally overheard Rachel Han on the phone talking about how gender identification could be done, but it would cost extra. He became suspicious and asked the doctor about Rachel Han's condition during a hospital visit, only to find out she wasn't sick at all. Later, while Rachel Han was asleep, he discovered more from her phone. After these reports, Rachel Han and those involved were arrested, while Peter Wilson received relatively lighter punishment. Hearing this, I couldn't help but feel a pang of sorrow. News about egg donations, cash transactions, and surrogacy emerges endlessly every year, with countless victims. I sighed, and Daniel Gu raised an eyebrow at me, asking if I felt bad for them. Amused, I looked at him. If I felt bad for anyone, it'd be myself for the extra workload coming my way. He buried his head in my shoulder and muttered, "No, work can wait. Let's have our wedding first." I smiled sweetly. Yes, the wedding was about to begin. On the day of the ceremony, I was sitting in the wedding car happily taking selfies with Daniel Gu when the car suddenly braked. It was Peter Wilson. His eyes were bloodshot, his hair disheveled, and his face looked utterly haggard. "Emily, look at me. Chloe, how could you marry someone else? Please forgive me." "Okay, Emily, Rachel Han has already been sent to prison. From now on, nothing stands between us. Emily, you're the one I've always loved. Look. Here's the ring you proposed with last year. I've kept it safe all this time. Emily." I rolled down the window, not even bothering to step out, and cut off his endless rambling. "Peter Wilson, don't you think you look ridiculous right now? There's no such thing as a second chance in life. Stay out of my sight, or I'll show you exactly what my day job entails." With that, I rolled the window back up. Meanwhile, Daniel Gu got out and pulled him aside. "Did you hear what my wife said? If you keep harassing her, don't blame me for what happens next." After that, he got back in the car, and the wedding procession continued. Peter Wilson just stood there on the roadside until, as they say, someone was left wailing in despair on the street. But I couldn't have cared less, because now, I'd left behind the man who once made me cry, and my future would be filled with laughter and joy. That's the end of today's story. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. We will keep updating with more exciting stories and look forward to meeting you again next time.